Massive episode of Gettable coming up, afl.com.au's trade and draft show. I'm Riley Beveridge. We are here thanks to Google. It's great to have Google on board in season 2025. Massive episode coming up. Scotty Lucas from Phoenix Management Group will join us in just a little bit. Cal, you've got to join us as well. What are you doing, mate?
Have we started? Sorry. I was just watching Alex Taru highlights of the Flying Viking. Can you believe this guy? How good was that? Sales of these things have gone up. How is St Kilda not putting these in their merchandise store yet? How many more marketing ideas do I have to give clubs?
Oh, my God. He was great on the weekend. Can't believe he didn't get the Rising Star
Should have
nomination.
been the Rising Star.
Oh, no. All right, as we mentioned, massive episode coming up on the show. But we want to start with Carlton. They're the big story of the week, and we want to get to the vision. Here it is, the vision. This is what clubs look for. They look 3 years in advance when they're planning the vision of their future. This is Carlton's 2028 team as things stand. And we'll debate whether or not the list is the problem in just a little bit, because I'm sure we have some feelings on that. But we want to go through a forensic look at what their 2020 team could look like. Let's start with the forward line, because there have been some questions lingering over Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay, who are their two long-term options in the forward line. Well, are they? I'm sure clubs might ask the question of them in years to come. The small forwards have been an issue for years, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. You've got Cody Walker there. He's going to be their father-son draftee next year. Looms as a top 2 pick. But there are some questions lingering over this forward line. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Let's go to the midfield now. Tom De Koning as the ruck, he's looking like he's going to head to St Kilda. So he's a question mark there in terms of who their ruckman is going forward. And there are some issues. Jagger Smith's coming back from that knee injury, but he's going to be a star of the competition. But then Patrick Cripps, George Hewitt, Blake Acres, are they part of that team going forward into 2028? And let's get to the back line as well, Cal.
Yeah, and Harry Dean, obviously the father-son for this year's draft. Well, he's looking really exciting as a potential top 15 pick, so he'll get there. Jacob Wiedering, of course, locked in long-term, and Harry O'Farrell's shown some good signs in his first season. Jack Silvani in talks on a deal that could be as long as 4 years at the Blues as a free agent. Then there's Ollie Hollands and some other vacancies potentially in that defensive group as well.
There are. All right, there's some big blue questions that are hanging over this side as they go into a new era under Graham Wright as their CEO. They start with Tom De Koning. He's their free agent, their big restricted free agent this year. They've got the offer on the table from him. I think the general consensus now at Carlton is that he will be heading to St Kilda on that $1.7 million per year deal. Sam Walsh, he wasn't on that board then because until they get his free agency signature locked in 2026, he can't be guaranteed a position in this 2028 side. He's going to be a massive question mark for them going into next year. And we've got Scotty Lucas on the show in just a little bit, so we will ask him about Sam Walsh's future. But as you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Geelong, Hawthorn and St Kilda among the sides that are going to be keen on him.
And he's not going to be in any rush. I don't think that he's going to be rushing into that free agency call when there's so much turmoil at the footy club as well. What do you know about next year, what it looks like, who's the coach, all of that. So clubs are coming hard already. Geelong definitely putting their flag in the ground. Patrick
Cripps, he'll be 33 by the time 2028 rolls around. Jack Silvani's got that 4-year offer that we think he's going to sign that you mentioned before. And then Lockie Cowan, I had a contract in 2026, a key part of this club's future. But Tasmania is coming. You can bet that they'll be interested in a player like Lockie Cowan. Let's flip the page, get to the list calls, because these are the big ones. Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, as we mentioned, signed till 2030 and 2029. If they are going to blow it up, these are their 2 big trade chips, Cal.
Yeah, they are. And Harry Mackay more so than Charlie Curnow, I think. I think the value is in Charlie Curnow, but I think the openness or movability of Mackay is probably a lot stronger this time around. So they're the big ones. And as you say, if they want to make moves this year, they're the ones that could generate some extra picks and capital in this year's draft. But that's the question. Do you actually want to rebuild in a draft that isn't that strong this year?
Yeah. Cody Walker, they need to find points for him next year. Harry Dean, they need to find points for him this year. And then pick 9, which they'll probably get as things stand as the TDK compo. How can they get creative with that pick? How can they potentially move up the board? How can they trade it for someone else to get new players in? That's going to be a question for them. Let's flip the page, because as we mentioned before, this is the glaring need. If you remember back to the forward line, they had no small forwards in there. They've got 8 on their list at the moment, Cal. Zach Williams, Corey Durden, Jesse Motlop, Ashton Moyer, Orazio Fantasia, Will White, Francis Evans, Flynn Young. They have invested nothing in a small forward over the last couple of years. The most they've invested in a player in this list is Zach Williams. They brought him in predominantly to be a midfielder and then secondarily to be a halfback, and he's turned into one of their best small forwards.
A lot of them out of contract too. Motlop, Moyer, Fantasia, White, Evans, Young.
I think if you look at the draft over the last couple of years, Kako, Berry, Watson, Gothard, small forwards are going earlier and earlier. If you look at premiership sides, Brisbane last year, for example, Charlie Cameron, Zach Bailey, Cal Archie, Kai Loman, Camerona, you need a quality small forward. Bobby Hill was a Norm Smith medalist the year before that to challenge. I think that's what they have to look at in the next couple of years.
From a draft or trade?
I think for both. I think it's easier. Look at the trade players traded small forwards over the last couple of years. There haven't been many. I think you need to look at in the draft. It's probably not the year to do it, but maybe year going forward. Here's the checklist for the Blues. Voss the boss. They need to decide if he's the man going forward, and clearly that's going to be the key decision that Graham Wright is going to have to consider over the next 8 weeks. The right stuff. I think there's plenty of stuff that they'll have to look at in the football department more holistically as well. And I think clubs, when you're pitching to players, pitching to draftees, pitching to Sam Walsh next year, his vision for the future is going to be key to that. Pardon the pun with the vision.
Yeah.
That's what's going to be massive for them.
Absolutely. Cap flexibility. Well, they've got the offer that's a $1.1 million offer to TDK. So that's there. And if he does go, that opens up a pot of money. But that also gets taken up as well and eaten up if Sam Walsh stays. So there's movement within that. There has been a tightness within the cap recently, and it'll be even tighter if TDK stays. But then if he doesn't, which we'll expect at this point he doesn't, what do they do with that acquisition market and the opportunities that are there? Is there anyone you think they should go and grab?
Well, I look at it. I think there's 2 list needs for this club. I think kickers, some dash off half back, and small forwards. And I think if you look at the dash off half back, because it's not really a year for small forwards, why not Nolly Florent? In and out of the side at Sydney this year. He's got that contract through to 2029 that he signed last year. But in and out of that side, he's been the sub the last few weeks. You could ask the question, does he see himself as part of that Swans future? Potentially go after someone like that. And if not, could you go after a more cut price option? Is someone like a Jacob Ware, who's out of contract at the Giants, but can kick the footy? Because they don't have many that can kick the footy. They haven't been in the acquisition market the last couple of years. Nick Haynes and Elijah Holland's the only 2 players they've brought in. They need to sort out their ruck. There's been links to Darcy Cameron, but is Mark Pitnett the man going forward for you if Tom De Koning leaves, or do you need to go and get a new one? Youth, Cal. They need kids coming through this side. Do you know, on the weekend, Cal, that was their oldest team since 1944 that they fielded Carlton. So they need players to come into this football side. How can they get it? They've got Harry Dean, they've got Cody Walker coming in. They could have pick 9. Jagger Smith's another one that will come into this football side next year. I wonder, with Cody Walker coming in next year, could they be a side that goes after that Gold Coast pick that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago and find a way to potentially bring in 2 top selections? I know that's ballooned out a little bit because of Port Adelaide's form, but they could be that side. And the Magpie effect. I don't think the list needs to be blown up. I don't think the list is the problem here. I think you can look back to Collingwood, who made a grand final in 2018, a prelim in 2019, bottomed out in 2021, and then they're back into prelim the year after. I think if you look at that, Carlton made a prelim in 2023. This time last year, they were 2 games clear in second spot. 2 games clear in second spot.
They've won about 8 or 9 since.
Yeah, but they're the best first half side in the competition this year, Cal. I think those 3 combinations point to the fact that something more fundamentally wrong is going wrong with this football side at the moment. I don't think the list is a massive issue. I don't think you need to blow it up. I don't think you need to get rid of a Charlie Curnow or a Harry Mackay, because if you do and you get draft capital back, what are you trying to draft? You're trying to draft the next Charlie Curnow or Harry Mackay. I don't think you need to do that. I think you can keep calmer heads, stick fat with the list, go forward, add to it over the next couple of years with some youngsters in, try and be smart with what you bring in from a trade perspective. And this team could be all right, I reckon.
All right, let's get to the draft, because you've gone through that so thoroughly there, Riley. I sense the passion as well. The Under-18 Championships was a big game, or a couple of games on Sunday. Let's get to the first one, because SA got the chocolates against Vic Country by 34 points. Let's look at some of the highlights here, because Mitch Marsh was excellent again. 5 goals. He was so efficient. Finished with 12 goals for the Carnival. Just knows his way around the forward line, the left footer. Gets space on the lead, converts his shots, and does that every single week. So he'll be an All-Australian in a few weeks. So will Aidan Schubert. Let's look at his highlights, because 2 goals, 19 disposals. He'll be the All-Australian centre-half forward for sure. And what I love about him as a player is his long reach. He's got that competitive streak as well, and his ability to get the ball in different ways. So he's comfortable pinch hitting in the ruck, which is important at his size. And of course, Dyson Sharp as well was excellent. 23 disposals and a goal. He won SA's MVP award. Just played so consistently, and he plays with an edge every time he takes the field. His last 6 weeks has been excellent. So he took on some one-on-one battles, crushed them in the middle, did it every week. So I expect him to win the Lark medal as well.
The Lark medalist,
a definite top 5 contender. And Sam Ainsworth as well, the ruckman, understated throughout this carnival. Didn't enter it with huge expectations, but was excellent again. 20 disposals, 8 clearances, 12 hitouts, 198 centimetres. So not sure he'd be tall enough to be a ruck at the next level, but played a great carnival. So well done to Sam. Vic Country, Josh Lindsay had 27 touches, a top 5 picker, and someone who'll be in the next sort of 4, 5, 6 picks of players who aren't live. That's the Josh Lindsay from Vic Country. If we can move on to Will Dersma, 24 touches, moved around the ground a lot, had so much time when he's got the footy in his hands, as well as he always does. And also Jesse Mellor as well, 3 goals. A member of the Cats NGA Academy. He kicked 3 goals too. So shown he can do this throughout the season. Kicked 6 goals in a game for Vic Country earlier this year as well. So that's very good for him. The Allies and Western Australia. Let's skip to the next game.
This was a fantastic game, wasn't it?
A tight finish. The Allies got it done by 5 points with a goal to Max King late in the piece. This was the big grab for Max King to start with. If we can get through this. Here it comes. This is Max King, the future Swan.
Wow.
Bang.
Bang. That's what he does. He's so athletic, isn't he?
A bit of flying Viking about him, the Flying King. So, and then he kicked this goal as well to help their cause in the second half, and this one to finish the game for him. So, look, I think he's certainly in that top 10 or 12 selections. Dylan Patterson was excellent. 20 disposals. The last kick to Max King for the match winner as well. Gets around, does it so easy. He's got this weapon, doesn't he? He's not going to be far off the top 3 or 4 picks now, I think. He has that speed and something that every club is looking for.
He might be my pick 1. He reminds me of Chris Yarran, I reckon. The way he stares blokes down and just runs past them, takes the bounce at full speed. I love that. What about Kobe Colson, another member of the Gold Coast Academy?
27 disposals, 5 clearances. He was really good. And I liked Avery Thomas's game from Tasmania as well. So that's the Allies. Let's flip over to WA. Jacob Farrow had 29 touches. 7 rebound 50s. Mentioned him a couple of weeks ago as a bit of a first round smoky, so he's been coming. Had 800 metres gain, so definitely a player that clubs are looking at inside those first 20 selections. Sam Swadling, 23 touches, continued a solid carnival so far. And Dale Sutherland as well was a bit of a surprise packet. Had 20 touches, rebound defender, took the eye of clubs throughout that game. So a game high 8 intercept disposals, used the ball well. A real big congratulations, though, to South Australia for claiming the SA with the Carnival. They 4 wins from 4 games. A great performance from them with the clean sweep, their first championship since 2018.
First one since 2018. Who was the pick 1 in that year?
That was Sam Walsh.
There we go. We're about to speak to someone who's very close links to Sam Walsh in his manager in Scotty Lucas. All right, we are thrilled to be joined by Scott Lucas from Phoenix Management Group today on Gettable. Scotty, thanks for coming back on.
Pleasure. Riley, Cal.
No, it's good to have you here, Scott. We've got a bit to talk to you about. Let's start with some out-of-contract boys who you look after.
Straight into it?
Yeah, straight into it. No niceties
We
here. We are just all business. You know us. Marcus Windhager, he's had a great run of form at the Saints, out of a contract at the moment heading into the end of the season. Where's things placed with Marcus at the Saints?
Yeah, he's playing some really good football at the moment. He's received some attention, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Can I put my forwards cap on? It says 6 forwards get tagged every week. That's footy. I liked Ross's comments. I mean, yeah, he's played some really strong football. We've had some discussions with St Kilda and we just look to work through that over the next few weeks.
Is he keen to stay?
Yes.
Yeah. And what about Darcy Gardner, a free agent again at Brisbane? Been through this before a few years ago, but then qualifies again after coming to the end of his deal. Where are things at with Darce?
Yeah, so Darce has been a player that unfortunately has missed a bit of football in the last 12 months with his knee injury. Come back to play, a little bit unlucky. He was coming back into the team against Geelong and then got some food poisoning. So I'm not sure where that sits for this weekend in terms of selection, but I would think he would play some football in the run home and is an important member of their team. But I also understand that it's a discussion more so later on. Yeah, as we get an opportunity to watch him play and see how he comes back. But he's feeling really good. His body's actually, I think, benefited from some enforced time off through the knee injury because he's been a bash and crash player. Yeah. So he's got a few miles on the clock, but no, he's really freshened up and going well.
Have clubs come to you on Shan Darcy? He's got the contract till 2030, but there's obviously some debate there with the ruck situation at Freo.
Yeah, gee, it's a topic of much discussion, isn't it? I understand the position and why, and part of it is Luke has played really good football, but no is the short answer. And we've had some discussions with Freo, as it is our job and it's regularly occurring, and they're really invested in both the ruckman and how they can work together for the benefit of the team. And I think we've seen that, different but similar in that we saw Luke play so well in the 2021 grand final, and I think part of that is as a result, and he's a much more mature player now in terms of age and experience and strength, etc. But what Max was able to do through that early part of the
Yep.
game. I think assists Luke being able to do what he was able to do in that third quarter. And I don't think it's entirely the same, but I think there is a similarity in that regard. And also it's who you're playing against in terms of rucks as well, because there are some really big dudes out there where I think Luke is well supported or required, or Sean can take a lead role in that. And we did see it on the weekend. I think that was great evidence. Like Roe Marshall is an excellent ruckman, but what we saw was a real dominance in the ruck, I think, collectively from Sean and Luke in both hitting the scoreboard and around clearance.
So obviously, clubs haven't come to you on Sean. What have you spoken about Sean around his future? And is he comfortable with the two ruck role there as well?
Yeah, so the discussion has been, so the first point was just to have a chat to Freo, just to say, how do you think it's going? And that's just a manager and a player doing his job. So on the back of that, they reinforced how important they think the two ruck role is. And Sean has been more than okay with that in my discussions with him. It's not something we've dwelt too much on.
Yeah.
I certainly understand it though, because it takes up a lot of talk time, doesn't it?
The merry-go-round's always interesting.
Yeah, and it is. You're quite right. I often, relate it to the backup quarterback, and the way that clubs shape their list around it, because the majority of them are one-position players, but you just can't have one or two on your list. So if you carry 10% of your list is for one position, but it's when you get injuries in that position that you're desperate that you don't have another one.
Sam Walsh is a player in the Phoenix Management Group stables, and there's going to be a lot of interest in his future going into 2026. What do you think will go into his free agency year and the call that he's about to make?
I think there's a lot through no intention of any of the players, but all of those players continue to be talked about. Like, there's not a day that goes by, and it's on the back of their performance, I think, isn't it? That's fair to say. Carlton aren't performing where they expect. They've got 5 or 6 excellent players, and all of those. I mean, I read a quote yesterday that the only player that shouldn't be on the table is a player that hasn't played a game yet in Jagger Smith. So that starts the narrative. But as for our discussion with Sam and Carlton, there is no need for one at the moment. I mean, he's got another year and a half under contract, all going well, loves the club, close with the guys. So for our perspective, it's just let it unfold as such.
Have the Blues wanted to start discussions yet?
We're always in discussion with clubs around players like that. So we've had a discussion. At this stage, he's not playing, so there's no rush in that sense, but please read nothing into it.
What about Max Gratuszki? Because he's not being able to break into that really good forward line at the Giants, an early pick from a couple of years ago, and doing some great things at VFL level. How many calls are you getting at the moment on him? I imagine that the pro scouts out there are looking at this guy and saying, he's a good player.
Yeah, you've gone through the Phoenix list with a fine-tooth comb, haven't you, boys?
And there is
There's
more
a few
to come.
more names.
There's more to come.
Yeah, look, you're quite right. Max has played excellent football at VFL level, no question about it. Third-year player. The Giants are very settled on their structure and the personnel that they have in their front six at the moment. So it's fair to say that we have had calls from clubs. I would say, we've had as many calls about Max as any other player on our list, which I entirely understand, because we hear clubs talking about the need for forward power and so forth, and he's someone that's regularly kicked goals in the VFL and also had shots, so his ability to win the ball has been critical. So he's under contract, and we've had some discussions with the Giants about how that all looks going forward, where we're a long way from reaching any particular point, but like I said about Sean, about Marcus, we're chatting to clubs regularly about our players to see what opportunities may be available and what other options might be. It's fairly, I would say broadly, fairly open dialogue with clubs. It's not so much behind the scenes. And
we love the behind the scenes.
Yeah. It's a lot more just giving a club a call and having a discussion. What do you think? How's this look? What are we going to do? What's a way forward? And that's across the board.
I know your clients are like your kids. You can't have favourites, but I reckon a couple of yours would be, or maybe you can.
Yeah, no. I wasn't thinking about my kids then, Cal. I was thinking about my players. Girls, all even.
Well, Jake Bowie and Jasper Fletcher, both out of contract next year.
Yeah.
Do either of those clubs start the ball rolling to get those extensions going, given how well both of those players are tracking?
Yeah, both have been excellent, haven't they? Jasper having played on a wing and then moved to half-back, I think has really opened up his game. I find the wing a really tough position for any player at any club to play. I mean, you're holding width, you're covering exits, you're running 200 metres, 200 metre sprints up and down the wing all day. It's not a great return on effort, the wing, but it's a critically important role to the team. I get that. So he's played really well. We've had a brief chat about him and with the Lions around how that looks going forward. So I won't say we're working through that at the moment, but I think we will get to a stage sooner rather than later. Jake contracted also for another year. A very brief passing comment with Melbourne, but yeah, they certainly value him in that sense. So yeah, that'd be something I think, if not soon. Sometimes you just get to the end of the year and say, gee, that was a good season, one to go, what do you want to do, guys? And that can be us going to them going to us.
Yep.
A little bit dependent upon the player, the list at the time and what they're trying to achieve as well.
A couple of your boys who haven't been out on the field recently, but we want to see them back in Cody Weightman, who was back in hospital last week with that knee injury, and then Tom Doedee, who hasn't played in such a long time, hasn't even made his debut for Brisbane yet. How are they both tracking in their recoveries? Yeah,
going well. So Tom has, I reckon, perhaps 6 or 8 weeks ago, came back from his knee injury. So since then, a VFL game just with a slight calf, more a knock than anything, and then missed on the weekend with a concussion. Yeah. Bye week, so hopefully won't miss a game as such. So he's had a little bit of injury interruption whilst being back in the VFL, finding his form, and I think just finding his confidence. I mean, he's had, multiple knees. I don't want to say the number or anything or provide that in a sense or curse him further because he's had a really tough run. Yeah. So it just takes time to get back and feel the groove when you've missed that much football because we see as time goes by, the game changes within season and when you haven't played for a couple of seasons, it can be a very different game you're coming back to. And then also Cody, he was in. He's had a little bit of trouble in a sense as a result of the injury, a little bit of an infection. So he'd been back in to have that cleaned up. It doesn't change anything longer term because it might be a month or 6 weeks ago, the Dogs, the injury said that he won't play again this year, unfortunately for him. So right now, what is happening is, whilst extremely frustrating for him, is not delaying anything in terms of his football going forward. I mean, it's all about getting ready for pre-season and next year, which he's certainly on track to do.
Let's talk about your draftees before we wrap up, Scotty, because there's a good crop with the Phoenix management crew this year. Headlined probably by Zach McCarthy, the Collingwood NGA prospect, but Cam Nairn's done a lot of good stuff as well. Had a huge day out a couple of weeks ago for SA. Kobe Coulson as well, who's so consistent throughout the Allies and Gold Coast program too. So Toby Sinema's a part of the group, Brodie Atkins, Dane Puker as well. Zach McCarthy though, what's the status around where he fits into your field, given his Collingwood NGA links?
Yeah. Look, Collingwood have been really pleased with his development. He's had an excellent season, both in what he has done, but I think in the way that he projects forward, extremely athletic and going well. But as you rolled through some of those names, Cal, it's very much a case of, isn't it, that the NGA and academies have taken up a fair portion of this draft. So it's going to be an interesting night come draft night. But Zach's certainly done really well and Collingwood are pleased with how he's progressing. Young Nan, he kicked the 7 a couple of weeks ago. Don't get better timing than that than kicking 7. If you look just in isolation, and there's so much more to it, but kicking 7 in a champs game, shows that you've got the talent and the upside to be a player at AFL level. And then those other boys, Kobe at the Gold Coast Academy has been really consistent. That was a really accurate way to describe his football, and has shown he's got real upside and talent, and it's a good ally squad. And then young Puker as well, going well. He's shown that small forward. I mean, it's a really important role, and year on year it becomes more highly regarded from draft stocks. We're seeing those type of players going earlier each year, and then more of them. There's a real group about it. And how often are we referring to a club that perhaps is struggling as being devoid of quality small forwards? Often it's, we can't defend, the ball ping balls out of our forward 50 because we don't have quality small forwards. So they're so highly regarded now.
He took the words out of Riley's mouth earlier on the vision on the Carlton Footy Club at the moment. Hey, that's for you. You've already got your Gettable t-shirt, so you've got a mug now. Take a couple of bumper stickers as well.
Well, there's no room. They're on the car and the coffee room at work.
Keen for you to sign this one as well, because you've previously been on our show, so you're going to go on our board. If you can sign that one. I feel like I'm 10 years old again asking for your autograph, Scotty, but...
No apparel, Cal?
You've already got your shirt.
What, we don't get it. You've got year on year, you need to change the range and the colours.
We're thinking about a beanie.
You're a beanie man. You've gone down a path there. I do like my beanies. Both don't mind the look, not a lot of hair, but it's the functionality of a cold Melbourne winter, isn't it, gentlemen? I need to keep the ears warm because they're of a decent size.
Hey, thanks for coming in. Good luck for the rest of the year. We appreciate it.
Pleasure, gents.
Appreciate it. Massive thanks to Scotty Lucas from Phoenix Management Group. Has to be the best left-footed agent out there, doesn't he?
Yes,
he certainly does. All right, we didn't do it at the top, so let's get to our cover story, because it is a story that you reported earlier this week on afl.com.au. The Berg with the lot. He's staying at Port Adelaide.
He's staying at Port Adelaide on a 2-year deal that gets him through to free agency. The ripple effect of Miles Bergman's decision to stay with the Power, it's a massive call. Let's get into Askable, because we want to discuss this a little bit further. But that is the big story off this week, as revealed on afl.com.au on Monday.
All right, let's get to Askable. Because Terry asked the question, what are the implications for Miles Bergman staying at Port?
Well, there are plenty, and it's a massive result for Port Adelaide to have him going through for another couple of years. Yep. A huge coup for them. It puts a spotlight on two things now. So how Port would get the deal done with Nazai Wanganeen-Milera if he did choose to leave St Kilda for Port Adelaide, and what the future is with Zach Butters. That's the ripple effect to start with. So the other thing is, in a space of a week, we've seen Rowell and Bergman both commit for 2 more years to free agency. Both paid millions to do so, but both deserving it. It's significant in the way that clubs are using their stay money. I've spoken about this a lot. The stay money has become the pay money. So the other implications out of last week is that clubs are moving on from the out of contracts group from this year. They're looking forward to the 2026 group now, because they're ticking these guys off. And it's a massive result for Port Adelaide to get Bergman done.
It's going to be some free agency class in 2027 though, isn't it? Bergman, Rowell, Chad Warner as well. Yep. Plenty there. Jared wants to know, where is Naz at with his decision?
Well, these two things are related, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
So the confidence from St Kilda on a short-term deal has been there. But as I keep saying, he hasn't made his decision. He hasn't made a call yet. So he's still weighing that up. How Port would do it if he did choose to go there is hard to work through now with Bergman staying, obviously. I still don't think they'd let Zach Butters explore his options a year earlier, even if it did net him 3, 4, 5 first-round picks. I just don't see a club that's bringing in a new coach wanting to do that.
Yep.
I don't see the value in it for them. So Adelaide is still hunting Naz and has a long-term deal in front of him. He's still weighing that up. Question for you, Riley. Hawthorn Zone wants to know, what's the situation with James Worpel?
We might have more clarity now that Matt Rowell's made his decision, because he was the follow-up option for a lot of clubs with interest in Matt Rowell. But I still think he's waiting, and he's going to wait and see what happens here for quite some time. I don't think he's in any rush to make a decision. So clubs have come for him. Would he consider them though? The offer's there from Hawthorn. He loves the Hawks. I think at the moment, if I was to make a call on it, I'd think he'd stay.
Does he have a strong suitor?
I don't think so. I don't think there's someone that's actually come out and said, yes, we want this player to be our number one option. I know he's had links to a few different clubs. I think that interest can be considered as lukewarm, though. Yeah. An interesting point that you touched on there as well. We mentioned Worpel being the fallback option for clubs with interest in Rowell. There's not really a fallback option for clubs that had interest in Miles Bergman, and there were a lot of them in Victoria. So that's an interesting element to the implications for Miles Bergman as well. He was them or no one. Peter wants to know, can you rank the remaining free agents as stay or go prospects?
Well, Sam Draper, I still lean towards go. He's really strongly weighing this up in terms of Adelaide and Brisbane. I think he'd love to stay at Essendon if the deal was there. Is it there yet at the moment? Probably not quite. And I don't blame them for what the deal is either. He has played 30 games in 3 years. Tom De Koning, go. Yep. Brandon Starcevich, more likely stay, I feel. But Essendon is there looming for him. And Worpel's another one. I'm a bit like you. I think if there's a strong taker, he could go, but wait to see where that is.
And Oscar Allen, more likely to go. Yep. All right, Brighton wants to know, where Where will Phillips land in 2025?
Well, I don't think he'll be at North Melbourne. I think that's fair to say. So 4 games this year on a 1-year deal. I think we'll see if he can move to a different spot for opportunity next year.
Could be back in the side though with some injuries this week. Shayla wants to know, has Bont opened contract talks yet?
Yes, and he will stay. It is strange that it's gotten to round 18 without the deal being done. Forget GTA 6. We got an Oasis reunion before Bont re-signed. What's the hold up?
That's good. All right, Greg wants to know, will Kai Fincher be picked in?
Noel Gallagher and Liam Gallagher got in a room together before Marcus Bontempelli re-signed.
When's the first show?
Friday.
All right. Greg wants to know, will Kai Fincher be picked in the first round?
Solid player. I think he's got some stuff to his game for sure. I don't know if he's a first rounder. I think he's probably a little bit deeper than that.
Okay.
St Kilda NGA.
Yes, he is, and a decent season with the Sandy Dragons. Lockie wants to know, when is the Wall of Trades returning? Soon.
Soon.
Yeah, we'll be back soon.
Maybe next week.
Plenty of our old favourites are set to return over the next couple of weeks, which is something to be very excited about. All right, it was a massive show. Keep clicking back to afl.com.au. Cal's got the helmet ready to go. You can see more of Alex Tara on the weekend. We'll see you next week.